Welcome to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast, where you can learn and be inspired by real-world examples of how technology is transforming businesses and reshaping industries in a language everyone can understand. Here is your host, Neil C. Hughes.
Welcome back to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast, where every day I try and invite guests onto this show who will make us all think differently about how technology is impacting and transforming just about every aspect of our lives, work, industry, world, in areas that we don't necessarily think about and we just take for granted. And I recently encountered a company called Onfleet, which creates software that helps businesses easily manage the last mile of their deliveries. And we are at that time of the year where many people all over the world are going to be having an increasing number of deliveries, whether it be to their store or to their homes. But I bet you don't think about the technology that makes that last mile of the delivery so seamless. And behind the scenes, last mile of their deliveries is usually the most complicated and expensive part of any company's logistics supply chain, ultimately connecting the dispatcher with the drivers and their customers. So Onfleet's mission is to make it easy for every retailer to offer fast, affordable and delightful delivery to their customers. But what is the story behind the company and how are they doing this with technology? Well, buckle up and hold on tight as I beam your ears all the way to the US, where Khaled Naim from Onfleet is going to share his story and the great work that they're doing with technology. So a massive warm welcome to the show. Can you tell the listeners a little about who you are and what you do?
Sure, yeah. Nice to be on the show, Neil. My name is Khaled, and I am co-founder and CEO at Onfleet. Onfleet is a last-mile delivery software platform. So we help businesses with their last-mile delivery management needs. Onfleet has been around for a few years. We launched in April of 2015, and we're now close to 100 people on the team and growing pretty quickly.
And if I was to take you back in time, can you tell me a little bit more about your origin story and where that point really, where your passion for technology, where it came from and what put you on the path you're on today, and how those worlds of technology and last mile delivery and everything and how it all collided for you?
Yeah. So origin story, I guess, we'd have to go back quite a bit. I think, I grew up in Dubai for most of my life. I was in London actually for about 7 years and then moved to Dubai in 92. And really my passion for technology started there. I did a summer school at Harvard while I was in high school there, studied computer science, developed a passion for that sort of, computer science and technology, and really have always been, early adopter and just interested in how technology can shape the world for as long as I can remember. But then when I went off to college in 2003, I went and studied computer engineering. So that was, I did my undergrad at Michigan in Ann Arbor. And focused, at the time was mostly on hardware design, computer architecture, processor design, sort of low-level hardware description languages versus, the higher level programming languages, software. I ended up working at Informatica afterwards, doing like database migration work for large government and enterprise clients, before going off and doing my MBA. And so that's really where the Onfleet story begins, is when I moved out to the West Coast for my MBA. I reached out to an old kind of acquaintance of mine from high school, who I knew went and studied computer science and was also working at another startup at the time. And I just sort of said, hey, like I'm going to be out at Stanford, in kind of the heart of Silicon Valley for a couple of years. And I have some ideas that I'd like to kind of start working on them right away. And really that summer, before I even started at business school, Mikkel, who's one of my co-founders, and I started kind of hacking away at some of these ideas and different projects. And, we were just writing code and, he was really doing most of the coding and I was kind of trying to validate the market. And at the time, the projects were pretty different than where we landed today, but really, that's how we got started. And then shortly after I began my MBA, I met David, who's now our CTO and one of our other co-founders. Just a couple of weeks into my MBA, he was studying computer science and focusing on sort of ML AI at Stanford as well. He was doing his master's there. And the three of us, started building things. And one of them, one of the ideas, eventually kind of we incorporated a company around it. We went through StartX, which is Stanford's accelerator program. For that idea, that was kind of between my first and second year of business school. We pursued this project, which was called ADDY, short for address, and that was kind of the inception of what became Onfleet was really ADDY, which was a sort of digital URL based addressing system. So we were kind of trying to solve the challenges that exist in many emerging markets around communicating street addresses when you don't really have a functional street addressing system. So if you're trying to kind of get something delivered to your house, and really most of the world, billions of people around the world lack a functional street addressing system. It's a very frictionful process. It's kind of a frustrating experience because you basically have to get a phone call from a driver and you kind of explain to them turn by turn directions using nearby landmarks and obscure points of interest, how they might be able to find your house. And so we set out to solve that problem initially. We made it easy for anyone in the world to create a URL that represents a physical location. And, and so, for example, addy.co/Neil or Neil Home, for example, could be your Addy, and you could update it if you move, and you could share it with a business when you're ordering something online, and that would be how they would find your address. So it's sort of a mapping from a coordinate to a URL, plus some additional notes and other information included in there, kind of like a mini web page that you can use in place of a street address, which again, often doesn't exist. So that's how we got our start in logistics in general. We were talking to hundreds of delivery companies and e-commerce companies trying to sell them on Addy. And that sort of, that's how we got into the logistics space. Obviously, a couple of years into that, we ended up shifting gears and sort of building more of an end-to-end last mile delivery solution. When we, discovered that was a really interesting pain point for all of these companies that we were talking to. They were really operating very manually with a lot of pen and paper and spreadsheets and phone calls and text messages. And, that kind of tipped us off that there was an interesting opportunity to build really the more kind of modern, advanced delivery management software platform moving forward.
Wow, what a great story. I love how it all evolved organically there. And for people listening anywhere in the world, though, in present day, hearing about Onfleet for the very first time, could you just expand on how you're currently using technology to enable businesses to easily manage the last mile of their deliveries and the problems, and also possibly expand on the problems that you set out to solve when it became Onfleet?
We help over 1,000 companies today with their local delivery operations. And these are companies ranging from food and beverage. So, grocery chains, brick and mortar, restaurant chains, but also, delivery only, prepared meal services or, alcohol delivery services. So, we work with a pretty broad range of different folks in food and beverage. That's kind of our largest overall category. We do a lot of cannabis delivery as well. So being in California, that's obviously, a pretty big industry, and it's growing really rapidly and spreading across the country. And so that's been really from the very beginning, one of our top segments. Pharmacy as well, flowers, retail, e-commerce, everything from furniture to laundry and dry cleaning, right? Anytime a business is moving goods locally, chances are we can help. And the way we help is we pick up once the order has been placed typically. So, kind of an integration to point is usually the point of sale or the e-commerce system or online ordering system of some kind. And then, the order flows into Onfleet. It comes in as a task in our sort of nomenclature. And then from there, we sort of handle on the software side, everything that takes that item all the way to the customer's door. So typically the item is ending up at a consumer, but we do offer, we do often work with B2B delivery services as well, where, sometimes goods are going from warehouses to a store. But typically they're ending up at a consumer's location. And so everything, from the routing of that task, across the drivers that you have, to the assignment of that work to the driver. So dispatching, communication between the driver and the dispatcher, the business, operations management, communication to the customer too. So we offer a real-time notifications and ETA calculations that inform the customer to allow really the whole objective here is to both kind of improve efficiency in an operation. So, to drive more deliveries per hour, and also to delight the customer. So, consumers have come to expect a certain level of experience from their, local delivery services. And we allow businesses to offer that through the kind of customer facing communication. So we use machine learning to figure out, really accurate ETAs. And so we can provide that to the customers so they can expect, they know when they can expect their orders with a pretty high degree of accuracy. And that kind of, real-time tracking experience that we've come to expect from different services like Uber and DoorDash and, even Amazon now. We allow retailers to provide that to their customers. And so the drivers that are doing these deliveries are using the Onfleet driver app. So we have native iOS and Android apps for the drivers. And then the business is kind of managing everything in our dashboard, which just runs in any modern web browser.
And for any techies listening, can you expand on how you're using technology to connect businesses, dispatchers, drivers, and deliveries to happy customers? Because again, to business leaders listening, that sounds like a great delivery. Obviously, there, no pun intended. But obviously, for the technical teams that are listening, there's a hell of a lot of work goes on behind the scenes there to make that happen, isn't there?
Yeah, there is. So, for the technical listeners, we're an API first company. So really everything that can be done through our dashboard, all of the assignment, all of the tracking, the status updates, all of that can also be done programmatically through our API. So, and that enables all the integrations that we have. So we're part of a larger ecosystem of services that retailers use, for e-commerce, right? So there's the online ordering, there's all kinds of different analytics systems and things like that. And we fit in nicely because of our, very well documented, robust API. The types of technologies that we use on our end, it really spans the gamut. We use a lot of different, APIs from, for communications. We work with a few different providers, including Twilio and Nexmo. For, geocoding, addressing, we work with Google. We work closely with Google and other providers on the mapping and routing and other areas on the sort of geolocation front. We have our own, we've collected about 300 to 400 million miles of location data over the years. And we train our machine learning models on that data to predict things like ETAs, say you're a driver and you have 20 stops to go and do today. How do we inform that 18th or 19th or 20th customer when they can expect their delivery? And, it's pretty complicated, right? Like that, that really depends on potentially the vehicle type, definitely the location, the neighborhoods, maybe the building type that you're in, the industry. If you're delivering hot food, it might, be a different story than if you're delivering furniture, right? So we learn over time based on our customers' operations and improve that accuracy of that downstream or predictive ETA. So that's, I would say kind of one of the more interesting areas, as we develop Onfleet into a real platform over time, we're going to be doing a lot more interesting things with that data. So potentially informing the driver where they might be able to park instead of just directing them to the building's entrance, right? So, if we see that there's maybe 3 or 4 deliveries that can be made by parking in one specific location, maybe we can direct the driver to go and park there and then perform those deliveries. So things like that, we're really just scratching the surface of what we can do with the data over time to really improve the platform for all of our customers. And then on the driver side, we have native iOS and Android apps that are really best in class. So you can actually go and see those on the app stores, and you'll find that we have thousands of 5-star reviews. Hundreds of thousands of drivers have downloaded the Onfleet driver app to perform deliveries for various organizations.
And if we have anyone listening in the retail industry, I'm curious, do you have any use cases or examples? I mean, you don't have to provide their names there, but just how you've helped a retailer offer that fast, affordable and delightful delivery to the customers and compete with the big boys like Amazon, for example.
Yeah. So, we have a few case studies on our website, on our customers page, but it's a really, broad range of different segments. So really the use cases vary from on-demand to scheduled. That's generally the two kind of buckets that we put our customers in. So either you're kind of, scheduling in advance and optimizing, a bunch of tasks across a bunch of drivers, or, your orders are coming in and in real time, you're sort of figuring out which driver to assign that to that order, right? So those are generally like the two main categories that we put our customers in. And then, within each of those, you have a broad range of different industry segments and size of customer, right? So we work with companies all the way from, starting at, hundreds of deliveries a month, all the way up to, hundreds of thousands of deliveries a month. And, we're powering millions of deliveries a week for all of these different customers. But really, how we help them. So, take a delivery only pharmacy like Alto, for example. They're a kind of a modern pharmacy, alternative here on the West Coast. And, they deliver prescription medication to their patients. And so, when they have orders coming in from their patients and they need to go out and do these deliveries, they use Onfleet from start to finish to optimize routes, dispatch those tasks to the drivers. Our route optimization engine can factor in a lot of different constraints, including delivery window, driver schedule, vehicle capacity, predictive and historical traffic data, and really all the kind of constraints that you might imagine to kind of optimize thousands of deliveries across thousands of drivers. And then the drivers get those routes assigned to them through the app. So they go about their day kind of starting and completing that work in the driver app. When they perform a delivery, they can collect proof of delivery through the app as well. So they can collect signatures, photos, barcode scanning, so age verification, all the kind of, POD or proof of delivery options that a business might need. So you can verify that the delivery has been performed, and also kind of confirm with the customer when that's been completed. So, you can set up various triggers to send out an SMS notification to the recipient when, for example, the driver is within a certain distance of the destination. You can say, hey, your driver's approaching, and, come down and receive your item. And this not only improves the customer experience, but also improves the efficiency of the operation, because the driver, if you're delivering something like alcohol and you need to verify age, the driver is no longer waiting for the recipient to come down to the door, because they already know when they can expect their delivery to be made. So it actually reduces the wait time or the service time. So the driver can kind of continue on to the next delivery even more quickly, and thereby sort of ultimately doing more deliveries per unit time, which is kind of the name of the game in delivery when it comes to improving efficiency and reducing costs.
And as we record the podcast today, the world's leaders are gathering for COP26, and there's a big focus on the environment and sustainability, etc. And of course, I suppose we've got to discuss the fact that moving anything around the physical world requires energy. And in the modern age, most of that energy, unfortunately, still comes from fossil fuels. Is that something that you're taking seriously at Onfleet too?
It is. Yeah. I'm glad you bring that up. So, beyond just like a personal passion, I think, climate change is very real and something that we all need to be thinking about, right? This is a global problem that requires a global solution and a lot of different solutions. There's no silver bullet, but as a platform that works with thousands of businesses, I think we have an important role to play to at least make it as easy as possible for our customers to not only improve efficiency. So there's that component of driving more deliveries to sort of smaller networks, right? To sort of smaller numbers of drivers, so you can increase density, increase efficiency, thereby reducing emissions and reducing costs in the process, but also allowing our customers to offset the emissions that they do have. So, obviously moving goods around in the physical world is going to generate emissions, and there's no avoiding it. Definitely, we do work with a lot of companies that are using EVs or, even biking around cities, especially in dense urban areas. We have a lot of scooters and, more efficient vehicles. Or even sometimes on foot. I know that some of our customers, like Capsule in Manhattan, a lot of their delivery folks are actually walking around or taking public transit. But when you do have vans or trucks driving around, you're going to have emissions, and so we make it easy for our customers to offset those emissions through a program called Onfleet Offset, which we announced earlier this year on Earth Day. So at the end of every month, we automatically purchase carbon credits through our partner Pachama, which goes to kind of offset the emissions of our customers. So we do all the calculations behind the scenes based on the vehicle type and the mileage that we've kind of computed for that customer. It's an opt-in program. We have hundreds of customers that have already opted in, including about half of our top 10 customers. So, it's definitely, we've already offset over 1,000 tons of CO2 since we started offering this back in May, and that number is growing pretty rapidly. So, we do. So with a click of a button, they, at the end of every month, we'll calculate how many tons of CO2 they've emitted. We'll actually we'll charge them $4 per ton, and we'll actually double that. So we pay our own $4 a ton and purchase carbon credits at $8 per ton. And through Pachama, we have built a portfolio of forestry projects, 3 different projects that form our portfolio that we purchase verified carbon credits for.
And looking to the future, is there anything in particular that excites you about the road ahead and the role of emerging technologies in your work at Onfleet too?
Absolutely, yeah. There's a lot to be excited about in logistics. I think we can start with the different modes of transportation and delivery that are just emerging seemingly on a daily basis. But we're hearing a lot more about AVs, EVs, drones, sidewalk robots. These days than we ever have before. And we've been talking about these for a few years now, but I think really 2022 is going to be the year where we start seeing, more real kind of commercialization of some of these technologies. I think to date, it's been, a lot of it has been experimental or, PR stunts even. But I think, there's real value in some of these technologies, right? If, for example, if you're a retailer and you have a bunch of physical brick and mortar locations and you get an order from, through one of your e-commerce channels for delivery, and it's within a mile of one of your store locations, and you have that inventory in that location, maybe it makes sense to use a sidewalk robot for that delivery, right? It's within range, and it's a small order. And if you have one of these sidewalk robots, you can basically do that delivery for zero marginal cost. And so I think, that there are real use cases for these technologies, and we're going to start seeing them kind of exploding next year. And we're talking to a lot of these different companies and sort of exploring how we might be able to connect our retailers, our merchants that are using Onfleet, whether they're large enterprise customers like Total Wine and More, or they're smaller kind of independent SMBs that may not easily have access to these different networks if it weren't through a platform like Onfleet. So that's probably, one of the more interesting things that we're thinking about now, and sort of how do we enable retailers to automatically route those orders that come in to the right to the right option, given all of the different constraints and parameters for that specific order.
Well, we began the podcast today talking about your origin story and the journey that you've been on. But as we come to a close now, I'm going to have a bit of fun with you and ask you, is there a song or piece of music that has inspired you in the past or helped you in your career or just helped you get your head in the zone before going on stage? If there's a song and a story you can share with us, we'll add that song to our Spotify playlist. No pressure.
I'm definitely I'm a bit of a music junkie. I do really love music. We have a really good sound system at the office. Actually, just yesterday I was in there and playing some music on the speakers. Really, it changes every couple of weeks. Like I kind of obsess over a song, listen to it endlessly, and then I switch and I get sick of it eventually. But right now, I think "Wizard of Love" by Blondish is probably up there. I've been listening to that one a lot. So I'd say let's put that one on the playlist.
Love it. Great choice. And I must admit, I'm exactly the same. I obsess about something until I get sick of it and then find something else. So I know exactly what you mean there. And for everyone else listening that wants to find out more information about Onfleet, some of the work that you're doing, or reach out and contact your team, what's the best starting point?
Yeah, so the best starting point is definitely our website, onfleet.com. It's ONFLEET. But if they want to shoot me an email, they can email me at Khaled, KHALED at onfleet.com directly, or contact@onfleet.com. And we're also on Twitter at Onfleet, and all your kind of usual social media channels.
Well, I love what you're doing with Onfleet's technology and helping businesses there and efficiently connecting with dispatchers, drivers and deliveries, and making it sound so simple. I know there's a lot of tech behind the scenes that is used to bring that to life, but more than anything, I think it was your personal story and a great song choice as well that brought everything to life. So thanks for sharing it with me today.
Thanks, Neil. Yeah, I appreciate the time. Good to be on the show.
I love how Onfleet is on a mission to make it easier for every retailer to offer fast, affordable and delightful delivery. And they're doing that with technology to connect businesses, dispatchers, drivers, all to their customers. But as we discussed in the podcast, moving anything around in the physical world requires energy. And in this modern age, much of that energy comes from fossil fuel. So it's great to hear Khaled's passion for sustainability and making a difference towards climate change too. And as a result, Onfleet have witnessed explosive growth firsthand and experienced a sharp increase in delivery volume over the past year alone. And they now power millions of deliveries every single week for thousands of businesses around the world. Incredibly cool. I urge you to check them out. And if anything we've talked about today around the last mile deliveries there, if that's a topic close to your heart, maybe you've got expertise in that area too. I'd love to hear your insights, experiences and opinions on everything. So please email me, techblogwriter@outlook.com. My website is techblogwriter.co.uk. Keep your questions coming in and I'll be back again same time tomorrow with another guest. But a big thank you for listening, and until next time, don't be a stranger.
Thank you for listening to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast with Neil C. Hughes. Remember, technology works best when it brings people together.